Council Resolution 114, 2025, adopting the Housing Unit Allocation Chart.
I move to approve CR 114, 2025.
Second.
I move to approve Amendment 1 to CR 114, 2025.
Second.
So Amendment 1 to CR 114, 2025 is, actually, this is the second year that I have introduced the exact same amendment that would require the Department of Planning and Zoning to develop regulations for activity centers before granting allocations from that regional category. The new housing allocation regions, particularly activity centers, should be granted after the implementation of Hoco by Design's policies into the zoning regulations so that the actual developments reflect the goals that the County Council adopted into law almost 2 years ago. Last year, council members told the DPZ that we needed to define activity centers. Councilmember Jones said, quote, "I would also like to reiterate what Ms. Young said. It would be nice to have a definition. We would very much, as a council, like to see a definition in the near future." That was at a legislative session on July 1st. Councilmember Youngman said, "The message that I hope DPZ is hearing from all of us, regardless of our votes on this, is that we need a definition of activity centers, or this is going to come back in a couple of months, 12 to be exact, Mr. Youngman, and we will put a moratorium on it." I hope so tonight. It won't be our fault. You are correct. It will be the fault of DPZ. I think this is well-intentioned, and we need to get our act together on defining the activity centers because it was a big leap in exchange for a lot of things that we are not going to get if we give all of these allocations out before anybody has to comply with the stuff in the general plan. That was an excellent, very comprehensive statement 12 months ago, Mr. Youngman. Thank you for making it. There are currently no specific zoning regulations for activity centers, which is defined in Hoco by Design as mixed-use areas with broad-spectrum housing, multimodal transportation, and diverse business and office spaces. Specific activity center policy statements from Hoco by Design include require safe, non-automobile pathways that connect buildings within commercial and office complexes, as well as activity centers to support park once behavior, create job opportunities through new mixed-use activity centers that serve as destinations and include a mix of uses that complement and support one another, allow redevelopment in activity centers through the zoning regulations to make a wide range of uses economically viable, encourage inclusive opportunities for the arts, cultural expression, and entertainment in new and existing activity centers through the integration of public art, cultural amenities, public gathering spaces, and an activated public realm. It goes on and on. There were something like 144 mentions of activity centers and policy statements made throughout Hoco by Design. And I would say we probably spent the vast majority of our time of 5 months in discussing Hoco by Design, specifically talking about activity centers. Activity centers is now one of 4 categories of allocations, and I think this year activity centers received by far the most allocations. I don't have the number right in front of me, but I think it was 662. So far, those allocations have been given out to one specific entity, and that is apartment buildings, without anything being required that was discussed in Hoco by Design that describes activity centers. It is simply apartment units. That's it. We have asked over and over again from DPZ, please, if you're not going to do comprehensive rezoning, at the very least, give us a zoning regulation amendment that defines activity centers so that we can ensure that when builders, when developers are creating these apartment complexes in what are supposed to be activity centers, that they're actually putting some of these activity center amenities in and around these apartment buildings. Make Howard County the most incredible place that it can be. Do all these things that we contemplated 2 years ago in creating these activity centers. So far, none, not a single one has done any of the things that are listed here. And activity centers really are nothing more than more apartment buildings. So here I am again, saying that the adoption of CR 114 should coincide with the necessary zoning regulations so that the goals of Hoco by Design can be realized in the area of the county that is growing at the fastest rate. My amendment ensures that development does not prematurely proceed through the development review process before the standards set forth in the general plan are incorporated into our zoning regulations.
Go ahead, Mr. Youngman.
Why don't we do it?
You want to do it?
I mean, the conversation I had with DPZ about this 3 weeks ago, and I appreciate you turning back the clock
Was
on me.
excellent. That
It
was
an
such a
excellent
great,
job.
it was
I
a great
appreciated it
statement, Mr. Youngman.
so
That was a
greatly.
beautiful statement.
But the problem is that we have projects along that have these allocations, and I'm not going to shut projects down mid-cycle. But it's clear that this is going to be sort of Groundhog Day over and over again. And I can't think of another way to kind of force DPZ's hand other than us saying that we're going to do it. And I'm sure not sure, I mean, we're smart, but I can't imagine we're going to do it well. I don't know what else to say. I just figured I'd throw it out there. It came to me while you were talking.
Well, it does seem like DPZ should be taking the lead. This is their baby. Hoco by Design was their baby. They gave birth to the idea of these activity centers, which sounded like a great idea at the time. Certainly something more than just an apartment building.
Because I'm concerned, I know you're concerned about village centers, and I'm concerned about Route 40. Go ahead.
And I'm concerned about Route 1, which is where I
Right,
think these
exactly.
allocations are being given out.
Yeah.
And
Most
I
of
think
them.
that, yeah,
Yes.
that's where these are.
Most of them.
Well, actually, I think 3 of the 4 current projects are in TODs. So,
Yeah.
Maybe,
Transit-oriented
Maybe we're-
development, for those of you who don't know what TOD means.
so maybe we're at a point where, like, the 3 areas that we're worried about hasn't been super impacted yet, but by next year it could be.
I mean, I'm happy to take a stab at it, but I'm not going to withdraw
Well,
this amendment. I'm still
Yeah,
going
I
to keep it there.
I
but
don't think we should belabor it now, but, because we have a long night, but it's,
Well, and I would add to your point, Mr. Youngman, that I don't think it's stopping things that are underway. If we approved a general plan 2 years ago that said these are our change priorities, and the only material difference between the general plan that preceded the one we approved, you all approved 2 years ago, is the addition of this concept of activity center, which 2 years later still remains undefined after all of your very, insightful comments. I'm happy to be present. Usually I'm on vacation during this week to vote for your amendment. But I certainly agree. If we're going to approve this by a majority, then yes, hopefully some of us will go forward and advance something that stops us from being in the exact same position 3 years in a row. But I have no concern about stopping projects in their tracks if they cannot demonstrate compatibility with some of these, with the very few new concepts that are set forth in that new 2 years old general plan. But anyone else on Amendment 1? Ms. Tara, would you please call the vote on Amendment 1 to CR 114?
Chair Walsh, Dr. Jones,
As Ms. Young allowed us to reflect
Thank you.
on our own words. I do remember. So if in a year from now, we're in the exact same state, like what was said last year, that would be troubling. I think that that's a great idea, Mr. Youngman, for some of us to, or all of us in some capacity, to come up with some definition, and maybe work in conjunction with DPZ. There's nothing wrong with that, nothing against that. But I also would not like to stop projects, as was mentioned with TODs and different things happening all around the county. But at this time next year, if we are in the exact same position, that would be even more troubling than today.
And
So-
by this time next year, I'm sorry, we're voting, sorry.
That's okay.
I can't see.
If, in the middle of a vote, Mr. Cook, could I allow someone to say something
it doesn't matter.
extemporaneously?
I'll say it at my turn.
Okay, all right, all good, all good. He didn't get the answer. Okay, so I'm going to vote no for the amendment, but I'll say I'm happy to work during our vacation months or off months to come up with something by the start of our recess into September, so that we can hit September or October, the ground running, and get that flowing for next year, for this time next year.
Ms. Young?
Well, I'm going to say yes, but I am very grateful that this amendment and the reminder to my colleagues of their excellent statements from last year has led them to say, we will work on this together this year. And sometimes introducing an amendment, you may not win, but you may still win. And so I hope that we will all win by working hard on this amendment in the future months. So thank you, gentlemen, for your commitment to doing this.
Ms. Rigby?
Find myself in an unusual position where I'm in disagreement with, I think, about everybody, but it's because the allocations chart is entirely separate from zoning definitions, and they shouldn't be treated like they're the same. I get the confusion, but it's very clear in state law, and when you compare the headers of the allocations chart and the zoning types available in our county. My vote is no on this amendment.
Mr. Youngman?
I'm no on the amendment, but, I mean, and in my conversations with them 2 weeks ago was, and remember, we're going to run out of time if we would do it ourselves. So we can't be doing it this time next year. We've got,
True.
Got about 10 months to get to the finish line.
True.
So,
Amendment 1 to CR 114, 2025 fails. CR 114, 2025 is amended, has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Ms. Terrell, would you please call the vote on CR 114, 2025 as amended?
Chair Walsh?
No.
Dr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
No.
Ms. Rigby?
Yes.
Mr. Youngman?
yes.
CR 114, 2025 as amended passes.